Alright, so today we're gonna create from scratch this kind of trancy techno synth that sounds like this. Okay, we're gonna create a new MIDI track. I'm gonna grab the MIDI as well from here, there. The MIDI, basically, you have this kind of pattern with F and then C, which is C sharp, which is kind of +8 semitone. And we're gonna use Wavetable, and we're gonna use the basic saw harmonics. We want this very weird tone, so we're gonna bring the position to 100%. We're gonna use the sub as well, just to add some extra harmonics. Now, one of the characteristics, it's obviously this kind of unison detuned sound. So we're gonna go to unison straight up, put classic, and put everything to the maximum. Now we can shape the amp a little bit to have something a bit more sharp. So for that, we're gonna need to reduce the release, but first we're gonna bring up the sustain. Now again, the idea is to use the low pass filter to bring it down and then to modulate with an envelope. So we're gonna keep this low pass 12 dB clean, and we're just gonna bring down the frequency. And now the idea is to use an envelope to open it fast. So we're gonna go to matrix, click on the frequency filter, so it appears here, and we're gonna modulate 100%. So we get something a bit more plucky, but again, we can shorten the release and the attack. Even the decay, maybe bring up this. We really want a short release because the thing with the MIDI, we have very short notes, so we don't want a long tail. We really want the length of the note to affect how the synth sounds. So long note, long sound, short note, sharper sound. Because if you put a too long tail, then the sound's not gonna stop exactly here, it's gonna kind of fade, so you lose all of the rhythmical things of the synth. Now one thing which is interesting, we can use this envelope to modulate the oscillator position, because we have some interesting sound depending on the wavetable position, so we can like this sounds good. One thing important for this is that we're gonna use as well the fold. So we're not gonna use all the time, but it's great to modulate sometimes to have different tone. So you can see how it makes the sound evolve without changing the tone too much. Here in the demo, I actually modulate some part of the pattern, it's at 0%, and other part is like at 2%. So it goes from like this and then back to 0. So this is something we can map to a macro later on. Alright, and we have our bass. Now we're gonna enhance the sound. First, I'm gonna use amp. I really like to use amp when I have the unison engaged because it's really bring up this buzziness, this noisiness. So first put in dual because you want the stereo. And we're gonna put in boost. It's obviously way too much. We can go around 10%. Maybe reduce here. Here I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna add the reverb that I will usually add at the end of the chain, but I'm gonna add it now because it's really helping having the reverb now to understand how each device I'm gonna add now affect the sound, and especially for example amp, but you're gonna hear the other. So let me put the hybrid reverb. We're gonna put it in Algo Dark All, and I'm gonna set it like this. Maybe we can shape as well. Now back to our amp and let's listen with and without. Basically, it's act a little bit as an exciter. You see, it really excites this high end, which is really great. Now, I'm gonna use the chorus ensemble. So usually, these are used to add a bit of stereo, you know. Now, because of Wavetable, we use in the unison mode. It's already pretty stereo. So here, we're not gonna look for especially the stereo, but more like this phasing, detuning effect that the chorus can give you. Obviously, unison is already about phasing, detuning, and this is just gonna enhance it a little bit more. So we're gonna still bring the width to maximum, but rate I would go around there. Obviously improves the stereo, but it's add a bit of excitement as well. Now I'm gonna use overdrive as again exciter, especially like for example in the mid high high. Okay, like this I'm gonna reduce the dynamic. And then I will always bring down the dry wet and bring up until I have something I like. I will bring down the drive. You can hear how we really brought up this mid-high frequency. It was kind of a dark muffled sound, and now we have something way much more brighter. Now we're gonna use saturator to add extra harmonics, and here I'm gonna use another clip. Just a little exciter. And finally, one I like to use as well is raw. I like to use it in multiband mode because again, same sound resonance for overdrive is we're gonna enhance especially the mid-high high range. And we're gonna excite it because with a multiband distortion you can really apply certain distortion to certain bands. And yeah, the idea is to really excite this mid and high band. So like this, we have a louder sound, a bit brighter, a bit more in the face as well. Yeah, you're gonna hear. So then the shaper choice, I don't really have tips. It's usually I experiment. I try actually all the shaper for all the band and I choose the one that fits the best the song. But each sound is different, so you might change from one sound to another. Here we're gonna use fractal. 17%. Mid, we're gonna use the tube. 49%. And here we're gonna use the poly. So it sounds like a bit too distorted, but that's great because we can reduce the dry wet until we find something, let's say, less brutal. Okay, we're gonna say like this, but to kind of tame this high frequency, we're gonna use an EQ, which is like very noisy. Yeah, we don't want the sound to get too muffled, but we just want to tame a little bit this frequency. Now we're going to add some delay in an interesting way. It's kind of a very rhythmical, but to kind of answer the pattern. So we're going to remove the ping pong. And you're going to hear actually, when I put to 2, how it's going to answer the sound basically. It's like you had this sub layer, which is basically created by the delay, which is kind of answering the main layer. Yeah, this is made with the delay. Now we can change the filter a little bit to cover a kind of a broader. Maybe a bit down the feedback. Very nice. And then finally we can use drum bus. So usually drum bus I will use it after the reverb. This time I use it before the reverb. I actually don't really remember why, but I always use the compressor. And then I bring the trim until up until how loud I want my, and how compressed I want my sound to be. Then I will put to medium, the drive, 20%, and then a bit of crunch. Bring that mid-high frequency, and then I will bring down the transient to kind of So drum bass is really like to make the sound in your face, mainly because of the compression, but then you add some extra harmonics as well with drive and crunch. And then we can use maybe a final EQ. This is not especially necessary, but if you want to be picky a little bit, kind of really tame. Kind of tame this very aggressive frequency, and you're good to go. All right, thank you very much for watching. Hope you learned a few things here and there. If you want to grab the preset with the MIDI, link in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to support me, this preset basically is part of my Wavetable 5 Techno Bank, so you can grab it as well to support me. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.